So I'm going to give a kind of a quick presentation and then just open up to questions. I'll just give you a broad overview. So yesterday I was sitting here listening to the lectures, and this isn't regenerative medicine. But what it does is I think it helps in the sense that we all leave these conferences with great ideas. I already have 2 that I'm going to execute next week. But then we figure out, start thinking like, well, how am I going to do this, right? And so what I want you guys to start thinking about is who's going to do this, not how am I going to do this. So that's the theme of the presentation. So, you know, when we're in practice, I'm a solo practitioner. Sometimes I walk in the door, hey, good morning. Oh, we ran out of paper. Or, you know, we don't have any more 15 blades. Last week we didn't have anesthesia, local anesthesia. So, you know, that's not what I was coming in with my mindset, right? So that throws me off, and so I used to have to scramble, and how am I going to do this? But we handle a lot of things that don't have anything to do with being a podiatrist or, you know, podiatric medicine. So we come to the conferences, and you know, we want to add laser and shockwave and regenerative medicine and all that, but who's going to run it? You know, it's a lot of great ideas. I've been a member of masterminds since 2006, Top Practices, FABI, Genius DPM, and I've had probably 99% of what I learned, great ideas, I never implemented, because until recently, I just never had the time. You know, I'd write it down, and then I just never got to it. So we end up doing a lot of stuff like ordering paper, supplies, things like that, you know, $20 an hour tasks, when our time is really worth more, about $800 or even more per hour. So we need to focus on what we do and then let other people work for us. But I know that for a long time myself in private practice, I always try to cut my way to prosperity instead of growing my way to prosperity. So I wouldn't want to hire anybody else because it was an extra expense and I didn't think I could afford it. And so that was always kind of where I got stuck. So, like we're talking about, who, not how. So a lot of this is just an example, but everybody's different. But if you recommend something to 100 patients in your room, when you walk out of there, you're pretty confident the patient's going to do it. Well, 50 of them say, well, let me think about it, I got to talk to my husband. 25 will schedule the treatment, and then 15 end up getting it. So what happens to the other 85? Right? You kind of lost them, and you just move on, and you're churning, and so that's a lot of revenue that you're letting fly because you don't have time. So as an example, if you sell 1 extra shockwave per week of those 85 that said no, that's $3,980 a month. Lunula, I do it in my office. That's my price. Same thing, $39.80 a month. If I add an additional pair of orthotics a week, that's $2,400 a month. And then we recall orthotics patients every year. So every month, all the patients that got orthotics in 2025, you know, April 2025 or March 2025, recall them to come in and get the orthotics. And if you get 1 extra recall a month, that's $600 a month. So if you add all these up, you recall your shockwave, Lunula orthotics, patients that don't show up, if you just get a few extra patients to come in, and your orthotic recall, you're at $14,000 a month, and the VA costs you about $22,000. So it's about a 6.5 to 1 ROI. So that's extra income that comes in. You're not looking for new patients. You're not paying for extra marketing. You know, you're paying this much, and you're getting a 6-fold return. So then it doesn't become an expense anymore. It's more of an investment. So that's just kind of a way to think about, different way to think about things and getting a system going that you don't have to work, but you know that's running in the background for you all the time. So this is what I was talking about. You recommend all these treatments, but very few people end up taking it. So here's a case study. The doctor was working 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, micromanaging, running everything from supplies to marketing to surgery, procedures. And annual collections were about $800,000 a year for 4 years, give or take $5,000. It was uncanny. I'd never seen that. Then that doctor decided to shift from micromanaging to adding these systems. Have somebody do a follow-up system, a marketing system, a recall system, tracking treatments, see who's taking the treatments who's not taking them and following up with those patients. So before, that doctor worked 40 hours a week, made $800,000 a year for 4 years. And when he did this shift, today I work 19 and a half hours a week with patient care, and revenue is about 1.2 million. So I'm working half the time, making 50% more income. And that, I didn't invest more in marketing. The only investment I made was I have 2 virtual assistants now. So this is a way to, leverage what you already have, because a lot of doctors think, well, I need to open another location, I need more marketing, I need more patients, and you don't. You just need to take what you have and work with what you have, and cultivate those patients that are already, like Rem Jackson says, know you, love you, see you, trust you, right? Take those same patients and just make sure they get the best service, follow up with them, and that's what ends up happening. So I'm happy to take questions. If anybody has any questions, one question that I get frequently is, how are we any different than like Hello Rach or Mountain Movers or anything like that? And the difference is that every virtual assistant trains according to my protocols in my office. So they know, for example, they know ModMed or they know Athena, whatever the EMR is already. They know how to make an appointment. They know how to create an account. They know how to verify insurance. They know the codes. They know the anatomy, all that stuff. And then every assistant goes through 2 weeks in my personal office as my personal assistant to make sure that we know that they're good, they know what they're doing, and then we release them into your office, and then you tweak whatever, however you want them to answer the phone or what tasks you want them to focus on, and go from there. The other thing is, as I've been doing this, what started out as just like a virtual assistant has become more like operations. So a lot of doctors want to know, like, what do you guys recommend for, retaining patients, right? Like, we get a lot of patients on the schedule. If we have 30 patients, there's usually 7 or 8 that cancel. And so, we offer a solution for that. It's called our patient tracker. What about referral sources, right? Like, I was just had a conversation over here. I used to have a marketer, full-time marketer, that would go pound the pavement and knock on doors and take cookies, and and it worked pretty well. But after the pandemic, I found that those people are hard to find, and if you can find them, they want $70,000 or $80,000, and the ROI really is not there, right? It's not like it used to be. Plus, now the offices that refer to you don't want people in their office. They don't want people coming in. So we developed the virtual physician liaison program. So we do essentially the same thing virtually, and that's worked really well. Sure.
I'm kind of confused. So you own this company, the virtual part?
Yes.
Okay, so that's your company.
Yeah.
So how would I implement somebody doing that? I mean, you have an EMR system that does the patient recalls. Part of that EMR, ModMed does different modules, does some insurance verification. Everybody says they do insurance verification. They never got deep into it. It's like, yeah, they got insurance. Yeah, what's covered? All these other services covered. So you said you actually bring them into your office and train them?
Well, virtually. They're out of Medellin, Colombia. That's where I'm from.
Okay.
So
When you say you bring them, they're not physically coming in and
No.
training with you?
No.
So how are they training with you daily today?
Well, I have a whole team in Colombia of operations. So they train, the operations team trains the assistants with my protocols. So I'm kind of like the final stop to see, did they learn everything? Are they competent? Can they do what we're...
But how do they tailor that to my specific practice?
Because if you're interested, then you'll have an onboarding call, and you'll say, hey, this is where I think I need help. My patient recalls, my verifications aren't as deep as I want them to be. So you tell us what you want, and then we structure something for you.
Okay. You just had somebody who's been with me 6 years, who's having to leave because of family issues or whatever. So I need another person in fact. I have my office assistant, and usually I have 2 people up front. I have 2 offices, and they travel with me, and they go over, plus my office manager's been there for 30 years. So she's basically virtual herself. So how would I utilize your product to free up some time with one of those upfront people to become an assist more so
Okay, so my office, right? So I have somebody that answers the phone, and that's her only job. Answer phone, make appointments, that's it. But sometimes we have overflow, or sometimes she's out, or sometimes she needs to be in the back, so we have a gap. So my VA backs up the phones, right? So she also answers during lunch hour when nobody's there, and she answers an extra hour after we leave because we still get calls, but nobody's in the office, right? So we capture all those patients that way. And then she does all the verifications. So we found that if you go on Availity or you verify insurance, they'll tell you one thing, but then when you call and you ask, you go CPT code by CPT code and deductibles, it's a whole different story, right? So that's why every single patient that I see we have a whole sheet of verification. So I know exactly what their deductibles are, how much they've met, how much they owe, what their DME coverage is, injections, in-office surgery, things like that. Every single patient before they walk in the door. Yep. So we know exactly how much we're going to charge them if I do an ingrown toenail. I know exactly the amount that they're going to pay me. I'm not going to just bill them, because if I'm going to bill them, I'm wasting my time. I'm not going to get the money.
What's the time frame to turn that around for somebody, new patient or even existing patient coming in the door? You know, you haven't seen them in a year, but go through the same stuff.
About 20 minutes?
Really?
Yeah. And then prior authorizations. So should they do all the prior authorizations? So I know, if somebody's coming in for, say, AFO, custom AFO, I always like to verify that twice, get the code, record the phone call. So when they say it was denied, I can play the phone call for them where the rep is saying that it's covered, right? So she makes a note of that so that if we need to appeal, we have that information. She does stuff like that for me. I was telling them too, last week she called and got 3 quotes for me to replace my attic insulation. So, that's just whatever you can think of, but we can focus on whatever area you feel like you need. And then once we start talking, then you may see, you know what, yeah, that marketing thing, you ask a lot of doctors about digital marketing. Hey, how's your digital marketing? Oh, it's pretty good. How much are you spending? Oh, I spend about $3,000 a month. And what's your ROI? I don't know, but it's good. I mean, I see a lot of patients, right? Well, is it really good? I mean, if you don't know how much you're getting for every dollar that you're spending, then how do you know if it's good or not? And if you go by gut feeling, that's not a great way to go. So we have a program where they track all the digital marketing. So I know exactly how much I spent on each particular ad in Google Ads or Meta, and we track each ad. So if we have like a Lunula ad, a Shockwave ad, and say diabetic foot ad, I know how many patients called on the Shockwave ad, and of those patients, I know how many made an appointment. I know of those how many came in, and I know of those how much I made on those patients.
How does your system then doing that incorporate information into my EMR system or into my office?
Because the marketing stuff is not incorporated into the EMR. The marketing stuff is.
No, I'm not talking about that. I care more about the patient information, what's covered, what's not, and that.
Okay, well, how do your assistants in your office do that?
How my assistants do it?
Yeah.
The front office usually takes care of that, so we'll run a day when we're slow or something, I'm not there, I only work 4 days a week. So we'll run on a Friday, all pre-authorizations and/or during the week too.
No, right, but I'm saying, how do they get the information into your EMR?
Well, there's module in the EMR, but then they'll also have to make a phone call most of the time.
Right. So my point is,
So they get that information and they enter it into the EMR.
right, so however your assistants do it, that's how this assistant would do it.
So you'll just regurgitate that to us and then we'll take that and enter it into our system.
No, we'll enter it directly into your system. Right, this is your employee. They're just not on site, but you give them a login just like you give the other ones a login. Anything you can do on a computer and a phone, you can do it from anywhere.
Are they trained on ModMed or any of these?
Absolutely, yeah, ModMed. Most of our customers are on ModMed, some are on Athena, some are on NextGen, but probably 90% are on ModMed. And I used ModMed myself before I switched. So it's pretty open-ended, but if you think about systems and things that you've been wanting to do, I want to know what I'm paying for supplies and if I can get a better deal. I mean, if you ask your assistant to do that for you and she's answering the phones, she's going to be like, look at you like you're crazy. She doesn't want to call and get send faxes and with all the supplies. Well, that's something that our VA does.
How long have you been doing this?
Since the pandemic. Yeah.
Is there, go ahead. I was just gonna ask, is there like a hourly method per week that you have to use, or how does that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that a lot. So yeah, it's full-time, 40 hours a week. And we have different tiers. So it's $14, $16, $18 an hour. But you know, it's not necessarily apples to apples when you're comparing Hello Rach or Mountain Mover, which is who I started with, because you're getting somebody that is trained in podiatry, and you know, we have all these systems that we are familiar with that we can implement in practices, and it's a little bit different. Hello Rach is more like for the do-it-yourselfer. This is more like a turnkey solution. Yep.
What if you had something like in your EMR, you want to do recall email or something earlier, but your staff doesn't come through that,
Or desire. Yeah, yeah. So I do that. So I ask her every month, pull 30 onychomycosis, plantar fasciitis, and orthotic patients from 12 months ago. So, and I say, you know, whenever you get the time, doesn't have to be all one day, doesn't have to be all this week, but by the end of the month, 30. And we average 10% recall, so 3 from each group. So she goes into the EMR, pulls the diagnoses, you know, she goes into a year ago, pulls those patients with those diagnoses, and then she calls them and we have a script. You know, hey, Dr. Vargas asked me to personally reach out to you because we noticed you haven't been here in a year, just wondering how you're doing. Hey, by the way, since you were here, we added something called Shockwave. You know, if you're interested, you can come in, he'll take a look at you. So she does that part, and then I get a report at the end of every week, and I know how many she called, how many scheduled.
What if, let's say, you know, the constant contact with lawyers for every use with no control? What if nobody knows how to do it?
Yeah.
Can you guys do that? Or are we
Yeah.
your EMR, ID clinical, and you go, oh, we critical, yeah, we got to pull these files, keep the patient emails, and then stick it into whatever you're going to use to send out your emails to the patients. Do you guys dig in that?
Yeah, we do MailChimp, exact same thing. So we do a weekly download in a CSV file, which I guess that's a file that MailChimp recognizes. I'm not super familiar with it, but she uploads it into MailChimp, and then she does the partitioning, you know, patients that had heel pain or birthdays or whatever it is, and then all the emails go out.
So if nobody else is included, you guys will figure it out?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
How do you have staff overlap, say the first, I mean, is somebody assigned specifically to our individual?
Yes.
practice?
Yep.
And then she's out, is there anybody to cover?
Yep. There is. Which, if somebody's out of my office physically, there's somebody to cover.
Right.
My sister in the corner, she's the one that covers. Yeah.
So if we were to work with you, we also have the time to interact with yourself?
Absolutely. I'm always available. Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, usually what happens is you get like an initial call, actually with Monica, and go through like, you know, what sparked you to call? You know, whether it's like you want more patient retention or you're interested in the marketing part because you're not really sure what's going on in marketing, whatever. And we start down and offer solutions there. And then Monica may say, you know, she's been with me ever since I've been in practice for 26 years. So she has been my office manager, my assistant, my therapist, everything. So she could say, you know, how are you, you know, how's your patient volume? You know, even though you didn't call about that. Well, you know, maybe we can help you there. Or maybe we can help you with, you know, protocols. We've had doctors that didn't have like surgery scheduling forms. And so I show them, hey, this is the one I use. You know, you can tweak it. So it's kind of a resource too, aside from just giving you a warm body that has some kind of a medical background.
What's the contract?
Excuse me?
Is there a contract?
No,
No contract.
no.
How long does it usually take you to implement to get up and running?
About 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So to go back on the contract, there is a contract, but it's not, you know, you don't have to stay in for a year or anything. I mean, it's month to month. But yeah, I mean, you will sign something, but it's not keeping you locked in for a year or 6 months. What's that?
Someday I'll come back and ask you.
Sure.
The HIPAA business associated, the agreement that we
Yeah, so every VA goes through HIPAA training, and they get a certificate, and it's all, the company's here, the business is here, the operations is there, but everything's through here, through Houston.
They did something different, right? They had, if you read their contract, they don't assume anything, you have to sign off any liability, you can't hold them responsible. And you have to then sign a VA, but it was even before this is what it was.
Oh, okay.
So now you have a VA sign, so then the Philippines, like, I think it's gonna happen, good luck with that.
Exactly, yeah,
So that's good to know that the liability is with, the VA is with the US.
right, yep.
How many doctors do you have?
47,
What's your retention rate?
over 90%. We've had, I would say, 75% of doctors that are no longer using our services are because they retired or they sold their practice to one of these private equities. And in fact, one of the doctors that sold to one of the private equities, the private equity company is now going to hire us, and they have over 200 doctors. So it's it's just a kind of different take on the regular VA idea.
Does the phone call, incoming phone call go to you directly, or is it just, when you set it up, like we'll pick up and then goes to you guys? How do you?
Yeah, so we use a system called Dial Pad that kind of, we're able to answer the phone from your office in Columbia and make the appointment on your EMR. So if you guys are going out to lunch, you just transfer the phone to that number. It's a US number, and then they answer over there, and then.
What do you do with normal daily operations? You say we don't pick up the free range, your guys?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're doing right now.
Well, that's how we do it in my office. Like, if the girl on site doesn't pick up, then it gets picked up there. Yep. So, well, guys, I appreciate it. Hopefully you find something useful, and I'm always available. Thanks.